Hello there and welcome to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV and I am your host Michael Obodu. Please follow me on Twitter at @Obodu. But in the meantime, I'll be bringing you a wrap of all the major business news stories for the week. So if you're ready, let's go. Have you noticed how prices of goods and services have shot up since the start of the year? The least said about transport fares, the better. But is there any end in sight? The governor of the Bank of Ghana believes so. He is confident that inflation in the country has finally reached its peak and we should begin to see some decline for the rest of the year.
Data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that the continuous surge in transport and food prices, among others, across the country has pushed the national year-on-year inflation for April 2022 to 23.6%, which is over 13 percentage points higher than the upper band of government inflation target for 2022, which is 10%. Under the inflation targeting regime being operated by the central bank, policymakers generally prefer that the policy rate stays ahead of headline inflation. But for the first time in a long while, the key rate is trailing headline inflation by about 700 basis points, leaving the central bank in a difficult position. Speaking on the challenge with inflation, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, said the situation is complicated, but a decision will be made by Monday on what to do about the policy rate.
So at the central bank, we had anticipated this. In November last year, we raised the policy rate by 100 basis points. And then we were rather surprised by the inflation rate which came out later on after that, in February in particular, which triggered the 250 basis points adjustment in the policy rate. This week, the MPC will be meeting. I do not want to preempt what the committee will decide, but I think it's a very complicated situation. As you said, inflation is about nearly at 24%, and we need to take a position on what to do with the current policy rate at 17%.
Dr. Addison, meanwhile, stated that he was confident the rate of inflation had peaked and should begin to taper off for the rest of the year.
The government and the central bank are very much aware of the problem. We have had very major decisions of fiscal consolidation. Expenditures have been cut by 20% this year. And as I said earlier on, we had raised the policy rate by 250 basis points. We expect that these measures would serve as an anchor to inflation. We had raised the primary reserve requirements for banks, which is also drawn liquidity from the economy. So broadly, all these fiscal and monetary measures that have been put in place should impact on aggregate demand. Yes, a lot of the shocks that we are seeing now tend to be supply side in nature, with food price shocks, oil price shocks, but we think that the West has already gone through the system, and we expect that inflation will be tapering off for the rest of the year.
Just as the governor of the Bank of Ghana, we all can hope for the better because the government seems to have a plan to address the challenge. It intends to pump more resources into various one district, one factory projects across the country. This will help reduce importation, which is one of the major drivers of inflation in Ghana. Let's see how that pans out.
According to Timothy Ade, a resident of Asokwa in the Ashanti region, a bag of rice which he used to buy at 45 cedis has been increased to 65 cedis in a matter of weeks. He says this and many other commodities are becoming increasingly expensive each day, further reducing his purchasing power.
Ghana Cote say too full man, na can be beer. Mekoto, I'm saying more, and they are, I say, many women in Ekoto, actually not on 2.5. Yakoto now for 3.5. The increase, you know, Meton Katsuani be 450. now 45, now 65. There is a prices no say increase air cost no I say double na increase in amount. Meanwhile so adwuma na ye ne ade na I say aketua still sa na den etie nti ne de nyama ntutum de affect bebree.
Some other residents of Kumasi who spoke to City Business News corroborated Timothy's claim with their personal stories.
Take into consideration the state of the nation right now. Things have grown up. There's been increasement on all things, on all items. Last 2 months or 3 months, it was different. But right now, everyone has his own prices on every item that he or she sells. And it's really affecting us everywhere. Even transportation to the things that we eat, okay, to the food that we eat, it's really causing a great harm in the system.
So I'm saying things are getting worse because looking at the way they have increased the price and the salary that they are giving to us, I think it's not helping us. It's not helping us. They are increasing prices for fuel and other things, but they are not increasing the salary. And you see, from my work, from here to my work like this, at first it was 2 cities, but now they have increased the price in and out, become 5 cities.
They are thus calling on the government to put strategies in place to address the situation.
The authorities, I think, it really boils down to the fact that they must try and strategize how to build up the economy, sustain it, so that we the citizens can also be satisfied a little bit, or can decrease how the crisis is going on right now.
If you say penifo betume de niam atutu akwan mu na niam bi wo a say even say fu no kra na say ebetumi aboa na say akofo ma I think say niam bi bofom. It is a fu no ekofo ma I say obi ade bi a shefu. This a fu no ekofo ma I think say fu no so be niam to betumi aye den akofo ma amaye.
If the government can do something about it and to reduce things for us, I think it will be better because things are getting worse. Even nowadays, when you go to market, our market now, 3 tomatoes is 5 cedis. You see, it has become, even food stuff has become very tall in this country and people are crying. So I'm pleading with the government, they can do something about it to help us so that we can also have a comfortable living. And people are crying a lot. People are crying. So if maybe they cannot help us by reducing the prices and other things, at least they can increase our salary.
Reacting to this, a Deputy Minister for Finance, Abena Osei Asari, says government is working on a long-term measure to address the situation. She added that millions of Ghana cedis will be pumped into one district, one factory projects dotted across the country.
With the inflation, we will all admit that a chunk component of that is due to imported inflation. And that is why government, when you look in the 2022 budget, government has put aside more than 212 million Ghana cedis to boost the 1D, 1F program, the one district, one factory program. And we are hoping that we will not see the effects now, but we are hoping that within 5, 6 to 10 years, we should be able to produce most of these things that we import that has resulted in, or that has contributed immensely to our inflation going up. We are hoping that as we put more money into the one district, one factory, we will be able to get factories across every district and we will be able to produce some of these things that we import.
For players in the banking sector, the regulator must introduce policy measures that will check the rising level of inflation and inflationary pressures on the economy. Managing Director of Cal Bank, Philip Oredu, said this will help spur economic growth in the second half of 2022.
The call by the Managing Director of Cal Bank PLC, Philip Oredu, comes at a time when many stakeholders are urging the central bank to put in place measures to check the rising inflation rate, which has so far risen by about 10 percentage points from January's 13.9% to April's 23.6%. Data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that surging food prices and the continuous increase in transport fares are the main drivers for the inflation rate for the month of April April. The rate is over 13 percentage points higher than the upper band of government's inflation target for 2022, which is 10%. At the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting in March 2022, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana increased the policy rate by 250 basis points to 17%. The policy rate informs the rate at which the central bank lends to commercial banks, which ultimately influences final interest rates. Speaking at the facts behind the figures session organized by the Ghana Stock Exchange, Managing Director of CalBank PLC, Philip Oredu, said an introduction of policy measures to check inflationary pressures in the economy will help boost consumer confidence and spur economic growth in the second half of 2022.
We know the economy as is now is still quite fluid. The MPC is going to meet quite soon, and we are all sure they are going to react to the height, to the hike in rates. Exchange rates, at least at the moment, we're seeing some sort of stability on the market. We see inflation going up, which obviously would impact on consumer behavior, which will also then impact on growth as a whole. So we see some sort of moderated growth at the beginning of the year, though getting to the tail end of last year, we had started seeing some sort of signs when it came to challenges with the yields on the Eurobonds. Obviously, we were not expecting it to get to these sort of levels with respect to inflation rate, the rate of depreciation of the currency, the current interest rate regime in which we are. But we expect that various policy measures, various fiscal measures, as has been put in place by government and by the central bank, would address these sort of concerns.
Still on inflation, so how can its impact on rising food prices be dealt with? The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research believes that to address food inflation, the government must invest in a comprehensive storage strategy to deal with post-harvest losses in the country.
While the national inflation rate stands at 23.6% for the month of April, it is important to note that food inflation, according to data from the Ghana Statistical Service, accounts for 50% of that national rate. Food inflation in itself rose to 26.6% in the month of April, which is higher than both the March inflation rate of 22.4% and the average of the previous 12 months, which stands at 13.5%. All the 15 food subclasses recorded positive year-on-year inflation rate, with oils and fats recording the highest of 43.4%. Other subclasses like water, cereal products, as well as fruit and vegetables recorded inflation rates of 42.1%, 31.5%, and 30.1% respectively. The subclass to record the least rate of food inflation of 18.5% from April 2021 to April 2022 was coffee and coffee substitutes. Speaking to City Business News on ways to check the rising rate of food inflation, the Director General at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Professor Paul Bosu, said, despite the improvement in the number of storage facilities, government needs to now look into the effective transportation of food items from the hinterlands to the storage facilities across the country to ensure food stored during peak seasons are made available in lean seasons to keep prices stable.
As a country, we still struggle with what we call post-harvest losses. Because of, these are linked to our transportation systems and storage systems. So let me commend government for all the food storage facilities, but that's one step. The other step is the management of these facilities, making resources available to go into the hinterlands, go into areas where farmers are, they don't find it easy to bring in and purchase them and bring them for storage. So the storage facilities are okay, but the next step of actually buying and bringing and stabilizing prices. Usually is the problem.
Let's stay a little longer with the issue of increases in prices, because if you're a lover of pork, then you might have a challenge with getting some of the protein to buy, because pig farmers in the country are worried they might be forced out of business soon. Some pig farmers have resorted to price adjustments of between 15 and 23% to make up for the rise in feed prices. But how sustainable is this?
According to the leadership of the Pig Farmers Association of Ghana, they cannot sit on concern and watch while businesses of their members fold as a result of the increase in feed prices and, in some cases, food shortages. The leadership also expressed worry over what they say is neglect by government for the sector and the fact that they also struggle in getting retail outlets in the various malls to purchase their products. They want government to consider importing some of the feed ingredients to make up for the scarcity. Here is the president of the Pig Farmers Association of Ghana, Kwame Apiadankwa, speaking to City News about their challenges.
The feed ingredients have gone up drastically from last year to now. Like we mentioned, if you look at maize, we were buying it for 56, and now you can get it for 175, and at times you don't even get. Soya was 160, now it's 290. The palm kernel cake was around 70, now it's 55 to 60. So significantly, the feed ingredients have gone extremely high. And some farmers have even decided to fold up till things get back to normalcy. So as leadership, you cannot just sit down unconcerned. So we did the calculations and we saw that at least if we do this kind of price adjustment, it will keep us in business till things change with this 15 and 23% minimum increase that we brought on board. I think what the government needs to do is to look at the basic ingredients. Those cereals, if they come in their numbers, if it's possible for them to import some of the feed ingredients to shore up the shortage so that things can stabilize. So that when the farming season takes off well and then things get better, then they can relax in the importation. At times you even have the money to buy, you can't get something to buy.
Shortage of feed.
Yes, and it's quite scary.
Some members of the association across the country, meanwhile, expressed varied opinion on how the sector should be run and how government can meet them halfway.
The private sector normally works with institutions to get stuff done from a business point of view. So I feel that it's still up to us, the individual private farms, to partner with the Research Education Institute, come up with policies and procedures with biosecurity or whatever, but give them access to our farm that does not compromise our biosecurity, and let them research more on this African swine flu. It's killing us. The private sector, the government, and the research and the labs, we can do it. We've done it with COVID. We can do it again.
We are contributing significantly to food security in this country. A lot of people, when you go to parties, restaurants and all that, when they say pork, a lot of people will patronize pork first. If the pork doesn't finish or whatever buffet they do, fish, chicken will always be there. So the government needs to support pig farmers to grow so that we can improve food security. A lot of pork is being imported from outside. I think we have the capacity to do when the government comes to support us. Every industry in this country can grow when the right structures, the right policies, and the right support is given to the people in it.
Spain, Germany, UK, the major protein source is pork. And so we need to encourage the consumption of pork. Rearing for food has been one system we have expected to support us. It has gone on. We are still expecting that the minister will do something better to help us to be able to even supply pork to the schools.
The situation is probably more dire than we think. There was some tension between traders and the Transport Association in the northern region. The traders had refused to comply with the new charges, saying it is outrageous. The transport operators argue that their demand is a response to fuel price hikes, which has eroded their profits.
Currently, a 100-kilogram bag of grains is loaded at a cost of 29 cedis from Tamale to Accra. However, the National Cargo Transport Association wants the price increased to 40 cedis per bag. In a bid to press home their demand, the association has halted its operations in the region, resulting in traders looking for alternative means to transport their goods. In a media interview, the secretary for the Northern Regional Chapter of the association, Khalid Majid, has warned private truck drivers against loading goods of traders. Some members of the association went to the Ababu Grains Market to stop private trucks from loading. This resulted in some altercation between the traders and the cargo operators.
See this car, for instance, it's not a Tamale car. For company. It's a company car. And when you even see the registration, it's a private registration. That means it has picked goods from Accra to Tamale. And the owner of the car will give the car in and out fuel. So when the driver comes like this and gets any bag, any amount they are paying him, he will pick and go. Yet your union cars are there. Those that will pay tax, those that are paying assembly, dIvoire, what, anything, everything we are paying. So that's the most annoying part.
The most annoying part of it is that sometimes you stop him and said they should collect assemble sticker. He said he will go to his hometown and take the assemble sticker. He will not take Northern Region sticker.
The traders, on the other hand, argued that the proposed new prices are outrageous.
What they came to say, it affects us too, because they refuse to roll the goods. So they refuse to roll because they increase the price, and the price is high from us. And we said we are all at once, let's sit down and talk about it. And our chairman called them, so they came here and we talked, and they said they won't agree. And even the GFA, they give them price with 240, and they said the 240 that they won't take it. And even those are bringing the cars to be picking our goods, they are not even taking 240. They are already 16, 17. But we give them 240, and they said the 240, they won't take it. So how are we going to do?
The Cargo Transport Association said several letters written to the Ghana Private Road Transport Union to facilitate the implementation of the new charges have yielded no results. They are thus reiterating calls on the GPRTU to intervene.
The one who organized for us to sit together at the round table, the one who is closer to the market woman, that's the GPRTU, because they are closer to them. Our cars are packed. Most of our drivers, they have, Northern Region, and they have those that also depends on them. So if your car is parked for more than a month and you don't work, what happens? And the second thing is that when you go to take your road wetting or your tax or whatever, you can't tell them that my car has been parked for more than a month and I'm not working. So you should pardon me. No, you can't. You have to just pay the exact amount. So it affects us a lot.
In the midst of all of this is the growing shortage of fertilizer in the sub-region, as countries around the world are struggling with access to the product due to the Russia-Ukraine war. President Akufo-Addo is concerned that this development could hamper the production of maize and soy, as well as negatively impact the country's poultry industry.
Ghana's agricultural sector has for years now been fraught with many challenges, as there have been shortages of several feed ingredients including maize, wheat bran and soya bean, particularly for the poultry sector, due to exports to neighboring countries coupled with exorbitant prices slapped on these items. The issue of fertilizer shortage, the menace of fertilizer smuggling and delay of payment to fertilizer distributors under the Planting for Food and Jobs program has also created dire consequences for the over 1.5 million farmers under the program. The recent Russia-Ukraine war has worsened the situation as a distortion in the global food value chain has led to a high inflation rate, with food inflation as a major driver. Many players in the agri sector have warned of looming food shortage if the domestic issues especially are not tackled, and have suggested ways by which they can be looked at, but to no avail. Although the government has maintained that it is working hard to check these problems, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana is of the stance that the sector minister is responsible for their woes. According to the chamber, the agricultural sector has become worse off under the minister's leadership and is hence calling for his resignation. Anthony Morrison is the chief executive officer of the chamber.
We need to see a more stronger agriculture sector, a more stronger regulated sector. In fact, as a matter of fact, calling on the minister to step down is not just calculated on his personality or otherwise. Because we are in this country, 3 weeks ago, the minister gave permit for the export of soya out of this country. And I asked which data informed that decision. We are in this country, and the minister yesterday night have put in place a ban on export of maize and soya. And I asked myself, what data was available 3 weeks ago? Why do you bring in a ban when we are now going into the production season? If somebody's bringing in investment into the sector at this time and you are bringing in a ban, the person is going to think twice, okay? Now, in addition to that, there are other enormous challenges. One, access to fertilizer. One would have been expecting the minister to be negotiating with the finance minister, minister of trade, the BoG governor, to put in place a credit line that will give the fertilizer and the seed importers some credit facility to import these fertilizers timely. The one put in charge of our food productivity is not thinking of how to mitigate our food security and how he can preserve our food security status.
The Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana is hence threatening to embark on an industrial action with other industry players should the government fail to heed to their calls.
The Chamber is talking to other players, major players within the industry. We have provided enough information for the ministry to take action. We have provided enough advice, enough advocacy for the ministry to listen and see what we have to do. The Chamber and its strategic partners will convene a meeting in the coming week. If that is not adhered to, there will be a strike. There will be a demonstration in this country for the first time, where farmers will come and join hands with processors and other value chain players and demonstrate against this minister. And we think that the minister should humbly resign.
Still on the agricultural sector and on a positive note, Nigeria, the world's 4th leading producer of cocoa, has joined Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to pay the $400 living income differential to farmers to help them achieve a living income. The living income differential is an initiative pushed by Ghana and La Cote d'Ivoire to combat the widespread farmer poverty in the 2 West African countries, which together produce more than 60% of the world's cocoa.
The living income differential was introduced in 2019 by the governments of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to apply a premium of $400 per ton on the export price of cocoa from the 2020-2021 crop season. This additional revenue was intended to increase the incomes of farming families to help them achieve a living income. The introduction of this initiative was due to the widespread issue of poverty among cocoa farmers, which many stakeholders attributed to the low prices of cocoa and the unequal distribution of profit margins across the chocolate value chain. After 3 years of existence of the Cote d'Ivoire Ghana Cocoa Initiative, Nigeria, the world's 4th leading producer of cocoa, has joined the scheme to pay the $400 living income differential to its farmers. This comes after reports that Nigerian farmers were losing revenue annually due to the absence of the living income differential for cocoa producers in Africa's largest economy. Speaking at a stakeholder meeting with management of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Director of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Nigeria, Abdullahi Abubakar, noted that his outfit is poised to put in place measures to increase the production of cocoa in Nigeria from the current 340,000 tons to the 500,000 tons in 2024.
It is worthy of note that the unregulated and liberalized cocoa industry in Nigeria is depriving smallholder cocoa farmers of yearly revenue as they are unable to collect the living income differential of $400 per ton being paid to smallholder cocoa farmers in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire in the interest of improving the livelihood of smallholder cocoa farmers, apart from the cocoa floor prices that are paid by the world cocoa farmers. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this visit is aimed at improving our cocoa production from the present 340,000 metric tons to at least 500,000 tons by 2024. And this can be achieved based on the present drive of the federal government and relevant stakeholders towards utilization of improved varieties. That is why we have the Executive Director, Cocoa Research Institute, in this particular team. Also of utmost importance is traceability and transparency in the cocoa sector. National cocoa farm irrigation, improve of the cocoa sector through research, input delivery, production, value addition, processing, and export.
Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boaeng Edu, also urged all members to comply with the principles that are enshrined in the Living Income Differential Charter and ensure their members benefit from the initiative.
It ought to be given in total to the farmer. All the $400 ought to be given in total to the farmers. So where there is no control, it becomes difficult to ensure, compliance of the flow. Critical elements in the charter that enjoin that the LID ought to be, given to the farmer. So for any country to benefit, it means that that country will have to, sign onto the initiative. That's the new cocoa organization that's springing up, should join. And then once it joins, and then, the charter is passed in their national assemblies or in their parliaments, then they can be admitted onto the initiative, and then the LRD can then be used. That's benefited to the farmers.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
We turn our attention now to the country's mineral resources and its management. The Alliance of Civil Society Organizations working on extractives, anti-corruption and good governance has reiterated its position to kick against the Ejapa royalties deal. This comes days after the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, reiterated government's commitment to ensuring that the Ejapa royalties deal sees the light of day. The government, through the Minerals Income Investment Fund, set up Ejapa Royalties Limited to securitize Ghana's gold resources. Under the deal, Ghana was to own 51% of the Jersey-based company Ejapa Royalties, and the remaining shares would be listed on the London Stock Exchange. In return for securitizing revenues, the government has assured that it could raise at least $500 million in capital to ease their growing debt crisis and invest in developmental projects by listing the remaining 49% of shares. But the move was met with stiff opposition from various groups of people. Despite Parliament's passage of the bill, the President called for it to be reviewed. The topic was, however, recently revived by recent comments by the Finance Minister. However, the Alliance of Civil Society Organizations working on extractives, anti-corruption and good governance still believes the policy is not in the interest of the country. Benjamin Boache is a member of the group.
If you check gold production over the period, you ask yourself, why have we been improving the volumes of gold we produce every year, even though we have the same land mass? It means that technology is improving. We are discovering gold in the same geographic locations and producing more gold. We want leadership to pay attention to this reality and trend. Don't go and sell all our resources because you assume that it will be 200 million forever. It has never been the case. And the trend shows that production is increasing from the same geographic locations. And the possibility of producing more is higher than we can assume it won't.
Member of the CSO, Kofi Bento, stressed that they will resist the move by the government at all cost.
We have a situation where the first Ejapa was supposedly passed in Parliament. We are hearing that the revised deal will not be sent to Parliament, which is why we are saying that is inherently unlawful. If it goes to Parliament, at least we'll get to know what is in the deal and all of us will be part of it. We'll send memoranda to Parliament and we'll be part of the discussion there in Parliament. And for the first time in the Fourth Republic, we have a hung Parliament. We are trusting that our parliamentarians will be up and doing and that they will make sure that this does not pass. It is a rape of our resources and we have described the Ejapa as robbery. So we are saying both it is bad and yes, it must go to Parliament because that is due process. And if that doesn't happen, we'll be forced to go to court.
Ghana's iron and steel industry is expected to receive a major boost as the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation and its partners are set to build $1 billion iron and steel plant in Ghana. Think about how much this would impact the local industry and the jobs it will create alongside.
Ghana currently has an iron ore deposit in commercial quantities. According to the Ghana Geological Survey Authority, deposits discovered are at Akokoroa in the Oti region and are of the highest grade. This pushed government to look for a private investor. The Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation secured a $1 billion iron and steel industrial plant to be set up by some European partners. The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation gave a scope of the steel industrial plant.
There's a team that has come from Europe called CISD Intercon, and they're here to set up an integrated iron and steel industrial plant. And this plant, when set up, it's going to create a lot of jobs and bring in revenue for the country. You're looking at a three-phase approach. The first phase will be to set up an 800,000 ton per annum plant, which we upgraded in a couple of years to 1.5 million tons. And then the third phase will be working backwards to do mining processing. We are talking about $1 billion US here to set up the plant. and they'll likely set up the plant in the tema-free zones area because you have access to the port. The nature of the business is that you have to bring in certain commodities which come from overseas, and also when they are also exporting the finished product, you need a port. So the proximity to the port is very important. In terms of timelines, we're looking at maybe, fingers crossed, 2 to 3 years for them to set up and commission.
The Chief Executive Officer, Kwabna Bonsu Fojo, also gave the future outlook of his outfit.
Tech is a flagship project that was set up by the President with a mandate to promote and develop an integrated iron and steel industry. And we're supposed to do that in conjunction with investors, both local and foreign. Under any joint venture or partnership that is formed, we're supposed to retain 30% of the equity. We're supposed to ensure skills transfer for the people of Ghana. And we're also to ensure local content participation so that it's not just the foreigners, but the locals and the Ghanaians will be part of the business.
Now to power, and it's not just consumers who are not pleased with the recent request by the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, for an increment in its tariffs. The Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and bulk consumers is also disappointed. According to the chamber, the government had engaged the IPPs to reduce their capacity charges to the ECG to make the price of electricity competitive and to enable ECG raise the required revenue to pay all the actors in the electricity supply value chain.
On 9th May 2022, the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, called for tariffs to be increased by 148%. This was contained in a report presented to the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. According to the Electricity Company of Ghana, the 148% increase in tariffs will be for the year 2022, with 7.6% average adjustments between the periods of 2023 to 2026. The sharp proposed increment is due to the gap between the actual cost recovery tariff and PURC approved tariffs, as well as the cost of completed projects. In justifying its demand for the 148% tariff increment, ECG raised concerns about the continuous refusal of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to fix tariffs in line with the cost of production. For them, the situation has affected the operations, and it is essential that the problem is rectified. In an interview with City Business News, the Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and Bulk Consumers expressed disappointment at the call for an increment in electricity tariffs. Dr. Eli Plim Akpetogbo is the Executive Director of the Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and Bulk Consumers. He spoke to City Business News.
The cumulative proposal submitted for an increase in electricity tariff was actually necessitated by the Government of Ghana policy decision in 2018 that compelled PURC to reduce tariffs by about 21% on average. And since that time to date, the sector has been starved because ECG was not able to meet the required revenue to pay the actors on the electricity supply value chain. And the government has to come in intermittently to provide some payment after budget allocation, clear the accumulated debt. So to me, this situation is purely avoidable in this hard economic situation. Again, you recall that Government of Ghana has engaged the IPPs of power producers to reduce their capacity charges or tariff, and this consideration rather, I think, should have maintained tariff levels under this economic condition, if not reduce it. Because if we, the power generators, are reducing our tariff or our capacity charge, it is creating a gap that may add up to ECG's revenue requirements. So in this case, ECG do not have to call for additional revenue at this time. Again, what are we doing about their level of efficiency, reduction in their wastages?
To quicken economic growth and improve the overall competitiveness of the economy, easing business processes like tax filing, business registration and the likes to reduce corruption is critical. In light of this, the Ghana CEO Summit is urging the government to take a serious look at addressing the bottlenecks embedded in the country's civil service for a more efficient delivery of government services.
In Ghana, small and medium-sized enterprises account for over 90% of all registered businesses and generate more than 90% of employment. SMEs have the potential to generate close to 500,000 jobs every year if well supported. Unfortunately, many of these businesses do not survive long enough to create these jobs. Some of the challenges that hinder the growth of these businesses include high credit constraints, inadequate infrastructure, weak institutional and regulatory framework, among others. For some, Ghana's business environment is considered less competitive compared to some economies within the sub-region. Already, the latest World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking shows that Ghana has dropped from 114 in 2019 to 118 in 2020. Many stakeholders, especially those in the private sector, keep intensifying efforts to bridge these gaps for businesses. The Ghana CEO Summit is urging government to take a serious look at addressing the bottlenecks embedded in the country's civil service and craft a framework that will streamline systems for a more efficient delivery of government services. CEO of the summit, Ernest de Graft Ejiri, addressed the media at the launch of the 6th edition of the Ghana CEO Summit.
We are talking about digital leadership. So what is this digital leadership deficit at the board? The board is the head of corporate management. So we are discussing this at the summit. We are also discussing the issue of doing business in Ghana, Ghana's economy and doing business. It's at the heart of every CEO. Is it a case of one step forward, two steps backwards, or two steps forward, one step backwards? And our major call to action this year at the summit is calling on governments to pass the Ease of Doing Business and Anti-Red Tape Acts this year. Since the establishment of the Ghana CEO Network, the major concerns of CEOs has been the ease of doing business, the issue of regulators, and how business regulation, how the business environment has been handled and managed. So our major call to action this year is for government to look at the ease of doing business and anti-red tape acts to help streamline governmental services. Sometimes in Ghana, what you hear, what you experience, what has been written is far different.
Finally, on job creation, and as part of efforts towards addressing the issue of unemployment in the country, the Ghana Enterprises Agency has created over 28,000 jobs through its collaboration with the MasterCard Foundation. Unemployment amongst young people in the country remains a major concern, and the government is doing all it can. The Ghana Enterprises Agency MasterCard Foundation Youth Africa Works project is under one of the GEA's flagship programs, Youth Entrepreneurship and Employment Program, which seeks to equip the teeming youth with employable skills to support existing entrepreneurs to create employment. The beneficiaries, who have received a 6-month training in dressmaking, hairdressing, barbering, among others, are being provided with the necessary tools to enable them to start their business. Speaking to the media during the presentation of 3,000 startup kits to beneficiaries who have successfully completed their apprenticeship program, Chief Executive Officer of GEA, Mrs. Kosi Yankee Aye, stated that plans are underway to achieve the 39,000 decent jobs target for the project.
3 years ago, the Ghana Enterprises Agency and the MasterCard Foundation worked together to design a project which was under the Young Africa Works project. The idea behind it was to create employment and support government's interventions in ensuring that the youth of this nation have dignified and fulfilling jobs. Our target as Ghana Enterprises Agency was to create 39,000 jobs, and 3 interventions were under the program. One of it is what we are witnessing here today, the Apprenticeship to Entrepreneurship program. We realize that for many people who go through training of receiving a skill, they're not able to turn it into a business venture or viable businesses. So we came up with a program where we support and assist the youth to turn their skills into businesses or viable ventures. So across the nation, over 8,000 youth had been supported, and now in the next few weeks we are supporting 3,000 of them to be able to have the skills and the tools to start and grow their own businesses.
Some of the beneficiaries shared their experience after undergoing the training.
Oh, I learned a lot. Basic things in fashion. Yeah, from the scratch. I learned everything. Now I'm a madam on my own. So now I can sew very well. Any contract, I'm ready to attack it.
I didn't have any job before I started. Yeah, I didn't have any job before I started. Yeah, by now yeah, I'm making money. I've been sewing for people and be taking money, huge money, of course, huge money.
It has helped us, the youth, know how to use our hands to work, such as hairdressing, dressmaking, makeups, welding, barbering, and the others. And we urge other youth to join us in this program.
Sector Minister Alan Martin urged the beneficiaries to work hard towards maximizing the investment made in them.
My advice to you, having gone through this training, is that you have been given kits, which is what is going to enable you to use your skills to earn an income. First, ensure that you protect and secure the kits. Secondly, make sure that you use this opportunity also to create a job for another individual or jobs for other people.
Well, our time is up. Thank you for tuning in to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on City TV. For more business news stories, check out our website, citybusinessnews.com, or don't miss out on the business dashboard. It airs every weekday on City TV at 10 p.m. sharp, with a repeat the following day at 7 and 10:30 a.m. My name is Michael Obodu. Thank you for watching. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed. Bye-bye.